I'm not convinced, though, that it's going to necessarily persuade SK to try and keep the Freya away from the hands of Vetium.
Sure.
I don't think that the Freya by herself was an issue so much as it was when combined alongside of the rest of the key components, and that being the Fafnir and the Kuzenbo, that strong front line for Vetium that really allowed him to just kind of do as he pleased.
Yeah, those first 3 picks in particular, the Freya, the Nemesis, into the Fafnir, that was so cleanly done from SK, and really set up the synergy for them with the rest of the draft, or for eUnited, excuse me. So I think that if they can play it as well here again, they could put themselves in that same spot. But now it's SK who are in the driver's seat. They'll be in the first pick. And remember, first pick can ban just about whatever they want. They're not nearly as pressured by banning out the meta stuff as that second pick selection is, and that's why you see them free to ban something like this Fafnir. He's not, first picked in every single game or anything like that. He's just something that's strong right now and that they don't want to have to deal with.
I think he's definitely a first pick, though, if you're eUnited and you have Collis as your support player. And I love seeing this Fafnir as well being stripped away from the match, because that is a large part of the reason why eUnited were even able to take that Phoenix to begin with. Without a Fafnir, I don't think there's a single chance that even the T2 tower, the T2 tower probably would have fallen, but no chance that they would have made it through that Phoenix in time. There was about, I believe, 13 to 15-ish seconds left on the respawn timers by the time eUnited was barreling down that into the Phoenix area. So Fafnir and that coerce, too steep a punishment. Get him out of here.
Well, Najah's been banned by eUnited, and that does put some of the pressure back on SK now because of the high-value picks. You consider King Arthur up there, Merlin up there, Freya, possibly even Xbalanque. So there's still a ton left that need to be banned, which means that we're going to be seeing some very, very strong gods in this one, as only one of those 4 that I mentioned are going to be taken off the table. I mean, even Achilles is still available. There's still a lot of options that have been thought that need to be first banned that haven't been looked at yet because Fafnir, Zhongque, and Najah have been looked at.
Arthur probably going to be the god of choice here for eUnited. He just has so much sustain, and you don't want Belair to essentially have a get-out-of-jail-free card on the King Arthur, just being able to close so much distance between himself and the backline due to the length of his kit, and not only that, but also having the ability to essentially have a mini Najah ult in the process. Wow. But it's going to be the Freya that eUnited are going to take their stance on. So Arthur's up on the table, but if it is a King Arthur here, I'm expecting a Bologna or an Achilles from eUnited in response.
Really? Okay, well, we'll see. We know that that eUnited likes to play aggressive, especially for Benji. As Merlin comes through, SK has passed on this King Arthur and elected Merlin instead, and eUnited putting into the hands of one of the best solo laners there is, King Arthur, one of our best gods, and you're going to follow that up with a Xbalanque. Those are 2 very potent picks coming through right at the beginning of the draft phase. Now, to be fair, SK don't need to feel bad. They've got Merlin and the option, as they do pick up Camazotz here, to respond, but this is scary so far.
Well, the RDO and the Camazotz are certainly going to help, though, for it to not be anywhere near as spooky as it once was. King Arthur, Xbalanque, of course, incredibly strong picks, but it's the Ares that I am loving right now for Collis. And I'm having to assume that it's Collis because I can't really imagine King Arthur as a Guardian type of choice, but Ares is going to be the counterplay to SK's attempt at a counterplay. You're expecting the Camazotz to have the sustain, the RDO to have the cripple field to really lock this King Arthur down, but if you're unable to move because you're being slowed the whole time and just chunked by the damage that an Ares can provide, this could pose some serious problems to SK. But Neilmah's also got a pretty mean Amir.
This is very interesting, isn't it? Because so far they've did the standard start where it was like the 2v2 and duo, and this would make sense if you want Ares Xbalanque to be aggressive. But if we do see Collis roaming at the beginning, is Ares really the one that you want? Chain can be very strong. You can get multiple off onto multiple people. It's a ton of damage and slows, but you've got to be accurate with it. It's a very curious pick here. It's a comfort one for Collis. He's clearly confident in his ability to execute here.
Well, that's part of the reason why I brought up the Neilmah Amir. It's not exactly the most conventional pick of choice just yet, and especially with the RDO being on the board, that does make things a little bit awkward because it would technically force Sam into a Camazotz, which I don't think is the direction that SK want to go in. So this RDO is very likely intended for Neil as is, but what I want to see now from SK in response to eUnited's Ares choice is just draft to punish the Ares. Don't even worry about the Xbalanque or the King Arthur because those will come after the fact. But SK have an opportunity here, I think, to really just pick a comp that can commit to locking down this Ares and just killing him, bursting him before he has a chance to escape.
It's often a really good answer up against this Ares. And some more CC immunity as well. They're going to need that. Right now, they're in some trouble with the RDO and the Merlin, but at least Camazotz can get out. They'll need a couple more picks that can match that as eUnited ban out the Raven, who obviously would not have a difficult time getting away from the Ares, and the Unbot, whose control can be very, very strong. We already talked about how, along with the Camazotz sustain and the RDO cripple, the Fear No Evil locking down the King Arthur has also been a big deal to helping to burn him.
Might not be an easy choice for SK to make because range still has not been established for eUnited, or at least not magical range damage.
Sure.
And I think that eUnited are definitely going to want a mage that won't necessarily have to get too up close and personal because when you're dealing with a Merlin, the slows that he can provide inside of that ice stance are certainly nothing that you want to try and get yourself caught up in.
This composition's filthy from eUnited so far. It's so much aggression, Taco. The King Arthur, the Achilles, the Ares, it's so much damage too. And they can kind of flex into plenty of tankiness too. It's so hard to get away from all this as Hachiman Thanatos comes through. So SK looking to add in some executes a little bit to try and maybe take out some of these tankier targets. I like this idea.
I like this mentality though from SK. It's just kill or be killed. That's
yes.
really all there is to it. If their execution is
Meet
on
me
point,
in mid, let's go.
No, that's actually it though. I love when you just see teams willing to clash burst against burst because this Thanatos is essentially now going to be, I think, that key component to really shut down this Ares selection choice from eUnited because whether it's an execute finish or just looking for an outright stun, the setup is going to be possible from Sanford Soccer onto this Ares.
And that's a good point. Even if he's not an execute threshold, that stun is so easy to land from just about anywhere. You can just go right up into the sky, land down on the Ares, and then you can have the follow-up. So I think that you're right. This Thanatos could be a potentially strong pick as Raijin comes in to fill out that mage requirement for eUnited in the middle lane. Taco, I mean, a Thanatos on the board here and a Camazotz. Early on, do you have anybody who won the draft phase at least? Or?
I think that eUnited have a really strong draft. I would probably favor theirs ever so slightly, but that's not to say that SK couldn't just smother them and look to outburst them.
Well, it's very close here, at least in the drafting phase, maybe leaning a little bit towards eUnited. Let's get it on over to the casters, though, to get us ready for Game 2.
We already know that I'm ready here, getting excited about the multiple assassins here on SK Gaming. Certainly want to see some high-octane play, a ton of kills. That's what I'm geared up for.
Execute for each side. Thanatos up against Achilles. Excited to see how Sanford Soccer is going to play this Thanatos. Now, on the other side of the Achilles, probably going to go to the likes of IceIceBaby. I don't see a world where Arthur's not played in the solo lane.
You sure that the Camazotz is going to go for Sanford, or excuse me, that the Camazotz is going to wind up in the solo lane?
Yes, more than likely. That's why it was also drafted so early. We've seen it before in plenty of matches of SPL and also in the minor league where the self-sustain of Camazotz between the Devourer, Vampire, Bat is good enough early game to mitigate the damage that the Arthur is doing before he picks up a Gladiator shield.
Well, don't forget, there's a ton of sustain on the Thanatos as well, but despite the conversation on Reddit, we will not be putting Thanatos into the short lane against the King Arthur. Sanford Soccer on the new skin as well.
What a skin, by the way. Holy.
Going to be out here in the middle lane looking for the fight. Benji slowed and brought down so much.
Man.
Boy, that chunk is very, very important.
That skin right there, 100% accuracy because of that skin. What a beautiful... Well, look at those wings.
Certainly a nice look there. But so Sanford Soccer here, early aggression is going to be the name of the game on the Thanatos for sure. And Neilmah and Belair are the ones that are on the aggressive. IceIceBaby has already used the blink.
Surprisingly, defensively, I guess he was really worried about getting poked out by SK Gaming as BigManTingz and also Benji trying to slow down Neilmah, but he doesn't care.
He's just walking right past him. IceIce going to start at the speed. Belair going to be falling back here. Meanwhile, left side, Zapman chained. And that's a ton of damage coming out from the Ares at level 1. Vetium just Well, he's playing with Colossus Ares.
This is a bait, though, because they know for a fact that Sanford Soccer's rotating over secures his own red buff. Paul doing the mid camps could pick up that red buff afterwards and make his own rotation. Because of the presence of the jungler, they're preventing Callus and Vetium from getting any sort of real advantage in this duo lane.
So right now, just the threat of Sam alone is good enough to keep the opponent off of the purple. And that's what Thanatos can do. And it's funny because he didn't do anything there, but the threat of activation, as I like to say, just really, really scary for eUnited. I mean, that Death Scythe is just so devastating. It always has been. It probably always will be. You saw the chunk it did to Benji once upon, or just before.
Yeah.
So it scales at what, 60%? But who cares? It's doing 10% of your max HP plus 100 damage on top of it.
Yeah, it's quite a bit to handle. And so far, SK Gaming, I think, are doing a decent job in the invade category. They didn't steal away the speed buff, but they delayed it by 5 seconds and already building up a little bit of a lead as a result of it. Still sitting at level 2 is both Sam and IceIceBaby, but the blinks are down for both of them. And a lot of it's going to come down to this solo lane matchup. Because of Neilmah's presence, it allowed SK Gaming to at least pick up the first Totem of Ku. And I wouldn't be surprised off of that one individual play that they get additional ones to follow.
You're trying to play the Camazotz against the King Arthur. You've got to be aggressive, totally. I like that Belair is just continuing to punish and pressure and provide all of this power against the King Arthur selection here. Because if you're not doing that, you're just not doing the pick justice.
Also, look at these jungle positionings already. Sanford Soccer's positioned for his speed buff. IceIceBaby still doing the left mids in response. So that's going to allow Sam to maybe look for another play in this dual lane as the blink is about to respawn. Also, SK Gaming stripping away the back camps on the right side earlier on. So I think the level 5 is going to hit Sanford Soccer first.
Well, the ping's coming out towards the red buff here. Players want to be on
Perfect.
this side of the map.
This is perfect. Neilmah just stopped the back for IceIceBaby the whole entire time. And when you're looking at the jungler, you always have to take note of, all right, does he have the speed buff around his waist or not? And that call is very important because you know that's where IceIceBaby is going afterwards. Zapman can be very safe, trying to last hit.
Blink one more time into Zapman. Beads are going to be used to avoid the cripple.
Good
dash
shoot.
away. The flames not enough to kill him.
If that third chain connects, Zapman's guaranteed dead. He waits to the very last second. He purposely doesn't juke the first two. This is the mind games of anyone that's been playing Smite for like at least over 3 years. Sometimes you got to mix in the jukes with the non-jukes.
Who jukes that way as the player doesn't move at all? Certainly something we've all said in our games once or twice. Belair versus Benji one more time. And again, we've seen this Camazotz strategy come out a number of times. Dignitas was the first one to bring it up to the Pro League. But I think the debut of this strategy came via Team Queso. The old Poppy squad brought this out. Julio really made use of it.
And Benji's going to be struggling now because he's losing his blue buff now. And Arthur that doesn't have the blue buff to spam away is just not going to have the same kind of firing power that he needs, especially without the Totem of Ku MP5 to follow it. This is what's allowing Belair the huge advantage. The small little presence for Neilmah to tip that boulder down the hill.
Nice little attention to how heavy the sides of the map are. That's really what I like to think of the map as sort of a scale. And when you're too heavy on one side, the enemy has the opportunity on the other side. That's why we always see the soul lane get ganked and then a gold fury in response. I think that's the most basic version of what we're talking about here. A little bit heavy on the left. That opens the door for Sanford Soccer to go into the enemy jungle and look for the back camp invade on the right.
IceIceBaby still one of the small ones, but 2 of 3 going the way of SK Gaming. They can't afford Benji to lose another blue buff. This is going to be really problematic to give Camazotz this kind of a farm uncontested. Already sitting with 2 Totem of Kus, about to get his third one, amounting to a total of 375 gold for SK Gaming.
Well, here comes Benji using the ultimate. Sanford Soccer is available. Blink forward with the silence to cut down a lot of what they want to do. There's some damage as well, but it's not going to be enough. 2 other players from SK here stripping that blue buff that you were so wary about.
And the reasoning behind this is because there's nothing else to do on the map. Speed and red buff just now respawning for SK Gaming. And after the successful invade, they're going to have to play defense. Neilmah, no CC immunity.
There's the pull and there's the damage. Nice and simple. First blood for eUnited. A little unceremonious, I'll admit. Neilmah just grabbed up by the ult, and that be that. But United making a statement here, taking care of business and putting one away.
Oh, we're even going for the red buff invade. I think that they knew that Zapman invaded the red buff during that whole little scuffle, but instead, Callus, without his ultimate, it would be a little risky, knowing that Sanford Soccer still has Hovering Death, Vetium calling over his Guardian. But once they heard, I think it was the Thanatos in the jungle, you gotta be more mindful about the aggression.
Callus misses the chain, and Zapman looking to punish him out. There's a nice stun as well.
Oh, he actually
in the sky,
missed on
in the
Callus.
sky, the blink. Callus hears the call. Vetium calls that Sam is in the air.
So the mounted archery hits onto Vetium, but the targeter of that ultimate didn't hit onto Callus. And that would have been important to do the damage. Make sure you put Callus in combat to prevent the blink from happening.
Meanwhile, Sam dodges the ult out of IceIceBaby. A beautiful move there. And Neilmah trying to control Ice. Sam for Soccer, still no ult. Certainly has Death Scythe and the silence. There it is. Zapman answers back. Callus puts Sam down just like that. 1 for 1, eUnited, the secondary kill going to the support.
Vetium now wanting to overstretch, knowing that BigManTingz is coming back from the base. No eyes on Paul. 1 for 1, trading out jungler for jungler. A good juke yet again from SK Gaming, preventing the execute from IceIceBaby. That would have been a clean pick and a hot disengage at the same time.
Real pretty like there. We like that. We certainly like that one out of Sam for Soccer. The blink out of eUnited as well also kind of proves just how in sync these guys are. An easy call. Thanatos in the air. He can get out.
Zapman invaded red buff about 2 minutes ago. That call has been made for SK to now regroup upon it. Callus does have the no escape. Could look for it onto Neilmah with BigManTingz around the corner, but instead just trying to play defense.
Meanwhile here, just trying to keep out of the opposition's way. Trying to keep Callus away from the rest of his team, I should say.
Perfect timing.
And meanwhile, another pull and another kill.
Textbook play.
But here's less textbook. Sam for Soccer from the sky. Paul looking to finish it off. The Flames will do it. 2 for SK in total. BigManTingz in the solo. And it will be Philip Glass's 433. No noise, no damage.
A good flicker from Paul after the kill, recognizing the threat was immediately behind him on BigManTingz. Gets out of dodge just narrowly. 2-3 for these teams, and it's still very even. And despite Benji losing 5 Totem of Coups repeatedly, multiple blue buffs, is still the same level as Belair. Also because Belair shared a lot of that experience, but regardless, he's the one now being a bully. With the Gladiator shield, he has the necessary resources to play with, despite not getting all the MP5 of the Q and the buff.
So right now, teams trying to jockey for position as far as a way to find a lead. Not 1,000 gold, even less, 500 separating our teams, which is 9-0. Collins forced under a tower. It was pre-10 minutes, and this is kind of what you expect out of these two teams. Maybe you expect a little bit more out of the Thanatos, but I think that at a pro level, Thanatos is a very different character. At an amateur level, or excuse me, at like a home at ranked level, he's kind of this one trick. You see the players all the time. They haven't really.
Benji's getting himself baited now because Sanford Soccer's right here, finding a good silence, actually missing out on the Death Scythe. Hovering Death available, needs a little bit more damage.
And there it is, the combination. What goes up must go down, and Benji certainly going down here. Paul chained up under the tower, gets it jumped on by BigManTingz. Nothing can help the Merlin out there as Callus gets the last hit onto the mid lane mage.
Oh no, Zapman now in a world of trouble. Actually doesn't even invade, last hit rather, the red buff as BMT looking for the cleanup.
Uh-oh, here comes 2 ultimates. You can't dodge them both. BigManTingz with the Zapman kill. Callus goes into the sky and gets the kill for Neilmah. BigManTingz the last hit as well. 3-0-1 for your mid lane Ryshan.
Belair, though, he wants to clean up. He wants it onto Callus, and he finds it on the back. I'm not going to say that was a lazy back because his eyes needed to be positioned in such an awkward position, like behind our own tier 2 tower. Unlikely rotation, but great recognition from Belair, assisting in the cleanup. And that's something that Zapman should have done. Instead of going for the red buff invade, during the tower dive, he could have made that rotation going down with the idea of playing cleanup crew. eUnited knew Zapman's intentions, repeatedly invading the red buffs. I think that was the third, maybe fourth time in a row. And when you're doing it that consistently, it becomes textbook for the team to just make the necessary rotations. Vetium, alongside IceIceBaby, made it impossible for Zapman to disengage, even with how much distance the mounted archery covers.
Well said. You are correct. I think it was 4 times there. As we move on to our mid-section of the game, Sam for Soccer still looking at Benji here. The dots are up. There's the silence spacing. Oh, it's bad. But again, it goes up. And the heal
sustained.
Doesn't matter. Belair gets him anyway. Kill number 5 for the team. Meanwhile, I said it before, Toli, if you're too heavy on the right side,
That's
you're
right.
exposed on the left.
Oh, IceIceBaby, though, is very low here, as is Neilmah. Mounted archery from the side allows Neilmah to clean him up, and SK Gaming defend the goal here. And actually, they're the ones to call to finish it off.
Meanwhile, everybody's kind of looking at him. SK just don't have the tools to really do it. And that's that. Paul now walking away on the Merlin. An interesting game for him, for sure. How is Merlin in your mind?
I think he's still good competitively, but you have to have enough ways to peel for him if he gets in trouble.
Right.
And looking at the draft from SK Gaming, I'm not in love with their defensive capabilities to protect Paul if he gets into a sticky situation. He has great damage and space control, and they're going to need it if they want to secure this objective.
Well, the Shibalake is going to go off, and BigManTingz gets one as he trades out his teammate Callus for the other. Belair chasing down BigManTingz. It's likely to be a death as well. Paul with the double kill. Vetium on the run. Zapman won't find the stun. Hits him with the banner. Belair tanks up. Throws the screech. Neilmah's here. Paul can't find the last hit because Belair does. 3-0-3 for SK Gaming solo laner. The Camazotz.
Because it was a 1-for-1, that rotation from Belair making it a 3-for-1. His second important rotation of the game. SK Gaming confirmed the objective, get multiple kills, and are still looking for a little bit more because IceIceBaby a little bit too far forward.
And he's level 11 here, Toli. Paul's going to catch up, and Sam just like that, able to take care of business. Level 11 himself, so maybe pointed that out fact preemptively, but just looking at a level 13 Merlin walk towards you, you're a couple levels down. It's definitely a scary look for sure.
And this is only a 2.5 item Merlin. He doesn't even have Spear of Magus complete. He's sitting on Shoes of Focus and Bancroft's Talent. The best kind of peel that Paul is going to have for himself is literally his own abilities, because I'm expecting Belair, Sam for Soccer to be hyper aggressive. Neilmah might have to also sit back to play defense, and that's fine when you're Merlin. As long as you have Gem of Isolation eventually in your build, doesn't have to be right away. You could still wait off for it. Maybe even go for 5th item, knowing that Paul needs a little bit more damage on the line. He's sitting about 2nd on his team, but as the game progresses, I wouldn't be surprised to see him number 1 or 2.
Certainly something you can look at. Having trouble seeing some of the nonsense. I feel like I'm getting Shibalake ulted. Zapman trying to deal some of the nonsense, uses the ult to catch up to Vetium and then dashes forward. There's a Shibalake ultimate, and Zapman uses the Aegis. Zapman, dodge it, weave it, still looking for it, almost turns it around, but Vetium earns the 1v1 and puts Zapman back in the grave.
This is the one advantage and disadvantage of mounted archery. You're able to cut the distance, but when you're going that close to a Shibalake, those poison darts hurt. The timing that Vetium used those poison darts was important because it was almost point-blank range.
Right.
And that's why Zapman also wanted to get that close, is to apply the slow and get as close to Vetium as possible. It all came down to who was more accurate at the end of the day. And unfortunately for Zapman, didn't win that one on top.
Callus looking for a pull. He's still looking for it.
Some say to this day.
He's still out there looking. The Pyromancer's going to go the way of eUnited here. They are down 2,000 gold. SK Gaming technically leading this one. Doesn't feel like it.
Not at all, right? Because of how aggressive eUnited were with their rotations, finding the kills, multiple kills rather, onto Neil. But a lot of it comes down to Belair having this advantage because of Neil's rotation.
Sure.
Despite Neil dying all this time, it's not for nothing. He's been allowing Belair this comfortable 2-level lead, Stanford Soccer with a 1-level lead. And as long as they can start grouping up and force team fights, I think SK Gaming have the superior mid-game to start rolling with.
IceIceBaby thinking about that gank on the left side, but opting away from it. No vision coming out from Zapman. Just a thought process.
BigManTingz in a really awkward position. Forced a Thunder Crash under his own Tier 1 tower. No mana to play with. SK Gaming with that intel. Can't really take advantage knowing that the Oni Fury not coming up anytime soon. And
right.
With Aussie now finished for Zapman and Executioner for Vetium, either one of these hunters can easily sneak that objective. There needs to be complete vision control around the left side of the map.
4-2 and 6 will be our time at the moment. What?
I wouldn't be surprised if Zapman goes for round 2.
I don't know where I came up with those numbers, Toli.
What did you say?
I said 4-2 and 6 is our time at the moment.
Oh.
So
and you're just looking around like, where have I seen the 4, the 2, or the 6?
It's not like nobody has that slash. I apologize.
I just
folks.
went with you, and I'm like, oh, okay.
I appreciate you yes-ending me and having my back, but I'll own that one real quick. Let's try again, shall we? You ready?
Sure. Let's go for round 2.
17 minutes is our time at the moment, and 19 kills is what we've got. A very slight lead for SK Gaming, as they've been able to find a couple of nice invades and a couple of kills here and there, but this is just barely not a tie game. SK Gaming have the slightest of leads, and eUnited could definitely snatch it and take it out of their hands.
It's looking very clean, I think, for Paul, at least, with this Merlin. Despite the aggressive draft from SK Gaming, they haven't had much difficulty keeping Paul alive, had a lot of success in these skirmishes, and now even transitioning to a breastplate of Valor. I wanted to point this out because having cooldown reduction on Merlin is important. Normally you would go for Chronos Pendant, but the defenses against IceIce's Benji is what he's thinking about.
Another Oni Fury going down here, this time for eUnited. SK Gaming unable to walk in because a good job from Callus keeps the opposition outside the screen door.
Meanwhile, Belair still kind of just doing Belair things on the right side of the map. Those rotations that he had earlier on could have been useful in that last little Oni exchange, but I think what it came down to was eUnited realizing that Belair's just going to play defense on that Tier 1 solo tower, so this time it was Benji making the crucial rotation, and once he had a 2-level deficit, it's now being mitigated to at least only 1 level.
I love the Gem of Ice on Callus as well. I think this is one of the more annoying things in the game.
I was going to mention his build when he picked up the pen boots early into the game, but there was just been so much action that I forgot. But I love the different choices that Ares has potential to make, right? Whether it's cooldown boots, whether it's pen boots, reinforcers, like you can make a merit for either one of them.
Yeah.
But going for the damage is what's actually allowed him and his teammates to find all these picks. He's been a part of 8 of his team's 9 kills, and now this Gem of Isolation is only going to be more successful now because he's been so accurate on the chains.
And he has the opportunity to go ahead and find himself just oh so successful.
And the Fafnir in game number 1 for Callus worked out well for them. That gave them the opportunity to go for a Phoenix at 18.5 minutes without Fire Giant.
Yeah,
and
no,
that was earlier in the game than we are seeing now in game number 2. And because of this Fafnir ban, because of this RDO selection for SK Gaming, eUnited were thinking about ways to mitigate some of the damage from Neilmah.
IceIce are on the back. SK Gaming trying to push up the mid lane, and Paul going to stick to the tower. And now it'll go.
Oh, no, he's not going to go for it.
No, Stanford Soccer here's the call. The tower has gone down. SK Gaming got what they came for, and he'll walk out of there. A nice satellite ult. He goes up, and he takes a look. Can we go in? No, I see 3 members in the top right jungle. They're surging forward. Let's all back off. Thanatos isn't up. You can't make that call.
If he knew that BigManTingz' Aegis was down, I think that he goes for that kill. But without that intel, he makes the correct decision. Neilmah making the interesting, aggressive decision, diving the backline.
Belair's right there. Ford going to intercept the sword, and there's a dash forward from Zapman as well. Benji in trouble, trying to spin, trying to win, and the turnaround is not so good. Belair now battling it out, and the king in trouble. He's going to get away, though, it looks like. Just kidding. Belair gets one, but Vetium takes care of the hunter. But there it is, the double kill for Scary D. Belair is the new name, but a game all the same. 3-on-3 here in the corridor. Nice AoE out of Paul, and Belair trying to land the dots.
That's not the angle that eUnited want to fight in, up against a Merlin, getting funneled down a corridor. Great play from Belair, and Zapman with a premature purification beats against the no escape, got pulled back in, allowing Vetium to clean him up. Unnecessary death there.
Can't do that. That said, Fire Giant. Can it go down?
It will.
Will it? Will it? Will it? Okay. I'm sitting here looking at Belair like, dude, your team is going to die to the Fire Giant while you invade blue. What is going on here?
I mean, these are SPL caliber players, but then again, I have seen some
We've seen SPL players die?
Yeah, we have. That was well calculated, though. They knew that Paul had the DPS. Even without Zapman getting the Fire Giant buff. I feel like they could have even waited for Zapman. Not with those 3 there. Like, they needed Belair to tank the Fire Giant if they wanted Zapman to get the Fire Giant buff. But this isn't the Fire Giant buff that's going to end the game for SK Gaming, so they can just rest easy knowing that as long as 4 out of the 5 of them have it, they can still confirm at least the 3 remaining Tier 2 towers and get that kind of a lead before going for the next objective on the Fire Giant.
One by one, everything on your to-do list just checked off.
Like, you know, you wake up, you make your bed, and then you take care of your other things in life.
No, I hop up out of bed,
yeah,
and then I turn my swag on. Then I take a look at the mirror and say, what's up?
Okay.
That's how I do it.
You're not, like, waking up in a tub with a bottle of Jack?
Hey, that's my girl right there. SK Gaming now. Deking to the left and meeting in the jungle. I like this play. Neilmah surrounding Kalis with a little bit of help from Stanford Soccer and Vetium on the left-hand side. I love this macro move by SK because it kept eUnited spread out. They make the play, so let me reiterate. They deke, they make the play like they're going to the left side to just siege this left lane, and then as eUnited try to get there using 3 different methods, a couple of players up the lane, a couple of players up this jungle lane, and a couple of players directly from mid. SK identify that, and they collapse on half of the team. Now, they didn't get the full team fight because eUnited ejected correctly, but SK looked to excise certain members away from their teammates and just look for the quick picks. That was a really nice search for SK Gaming. I don't know able to find it.
And the one thing that they did trade off was the horrific for Neilmah for the sprint out of Kalis, which makes it easier, I think, to successfully get these Tier 2 towers. Still about 90 seconds remaining on that sprint or relic. But after the goal, Fury just wanting to spend a bunch of that gold in hand. Fire Giant buff still around their waist for another 1.5 to 2 minutes. So there's still plenty of time to go for these 4,500 gold worth of structures.
I've said this before about this character, and I'm happy to see it here. The Shaman's Ring on the Raijin. Shaman's Ring is an item that I think is under-purchased. Sometimes these magical items come through and they have less than 100 power, and that's where you have to start thinking about things. But 100 power is kind of the standard amount of power for a magical item. And here, basically, once you touch somebody, they're going to take 10% more damage from you. You look at what Raijin does. He has a channeled ability on his 1. He has a channeled ability on his 3. His ultimate is going to be there as well, or his 2, excuse me. His ultimate is going to hit multiple times as well. All of it feeds into what Raijin wants to do, which is hit you multiple times.
That's right. All
Just
those
a
dots.
great item.
And that could also be picked up for Paul if he really wanted to, because he needs more peel, so he can use that movement speed. But I think it's a little risky now to pick it up this late. You're not going to have it stacked right away. Maybe after like 1 or 2 team fights.
1 or 2 team fights, it stacks it up. I think that Paul has that Breastplate of Valor in the build.
Yes.
And I think that kind of takes that slot, if you will, even though they do very different things.
Well, now 5 items deep. He needs a gem of isolation, sieging under the tier 2 tower, looking for something there, but Sam for Soccer looking for the flank, just going to have to reset. Fire Giant still around SK's waist.
Look at the junglers here. It's a 4-on-4 with each jungler in the wings. Love this symmetry coming out from SK Gaming and eUnited, understanding how these team fights are going to go and how important the positioning is. And it's interesting. We do have a lot of kills here, Toli. But what I've seen out of these two teams, and excuse me while I borrow a term from fighting games, they're playing footsies. It's it's so much about the incredible detail to where everybody is. If Thanatos engages, that means IceIceBaby can go in, but IceIce has to watch out because Thanatos is going to go above, and each little microaggression really matters in these non-team fights. And
yes.
You know exactly what I mean by that, right?
Yeah, like one wrong misstep from Neilmah, all of a sudden he's getting pulled in by Callus under the no escape, and despite having Fire Giant buff for SK for like a little bit during that tier 2 tower siege, that would have been enough DPS for eUnited to strip away the RDO, and you don't want to die under a tier 2 tower. You want to die like trying to go for their Phoenixes, if anything, because they're going to be able to counter push you if they find the picks. Is eUnited, that is.
Exactly. And it's funny, the reason I say these non-team fights instead of just like standing there is because every time we see that sort of that stare down, those are all potential team fights. And when I talk about the importance of positioning and you know, again, borrowing the term footsies, it's very much, this could be a team fight, like you said, if one step too forward, one step to the right. So SK and eUnited very intentionally positioning themselves. SK Gaming watches the Pyromancer goes down, and I like that call. Don't go all in for the Pyro guy. Callus, though, maybe he likes fire. Belair jumped on, very low HP, goes to the sky to avoid the pull from Ares. Shibalonki ultimate going to be used as well. Belair done with it. BigManTingz to the wall. Just everybody pushing forward, but nobody hitting the floor. Here comes the surge forward. Thanatos up. Thanatos down, Benji in the ground, but Sam for Soccer also gonna go down. It's a 1-for-1.
BigManTingz had to thunder crash in as Paul takes out another member, going in aggressively under the tier 2 tower. That's the Zapman I know and remember going in. IceIceBaby trying to play defense. He gets taken out. That's a D side. I think SK Gaming are gonna tie up the series.
You think they're gonna go for the win here, Toli? I don't know if it's possible. They're going
for
low.
it with they're going for at least a middle Phoenix because they rotated with the minions. So much time for a Phoenix guaranteed. I don't think they can end.
They're
not even going for it.
They definitely can't end, and a Phoenix is even questionable. Even though the players are low, Neilmah is going to die to this Fire Giant.
Well, he's not tanking it. It's Zapman taking it. He has life steal a little bit on the double
there
gloves.
it is. The heals are good. Half HP on the FG. Paul and Zapman here providing a ton of damage. And they're going to be able to get the Fire Giant. 3, 2, 1. They will wait for Sam for Soccer. Down goes the Fire Giant. And SK Gaming still in control of this game as they have been. And it's been very impressive watching them do what they do.
So my assumption as to why SK didn't go for the middle Phoenix, even though they certainly could have gotten it,
it was so close.
No, they would have gotten it if they went for it. But the problem was, after getting the middle Phoenix, they wouldn't be healthy to do the Fire Giant.
Exactly.
And eUnited would respawn, be healthy, can chase SK Gaming all the way down south to delay their backs, and then be in position for themselves to scoop themselves back forward north to confirm that Fire Giant. And SK Gaming would rather just cover their safe options, get the tier 2 tower, and get the Fire Giant.
There's the Batman, and BigManTingz just doing the wrong things there. Can't be there. Can't be there. You can't get picked off.
I wanted to judge his last team fight. He ultied way too early in that last team fight, and he thunder crashed aggressively, trying to take out Sam for Soccer after Sam took out IceIceBaby.
Well, here's a whole different team fight. It's 4-on-5, make it 3-on-5 as Paul early puts one down. Sam misses, but it's only because Belair already killed him. The dot ticks are good, and it's a 5-on-2 here under the mid lane Phoenix. Zapman is attacking the minions. Hit the tower, Zapman!
He doesn't care. He's just trying to buy time at the end of the day. This game is all in the SK favor. It's only Vetium and IceIceBaby to play defense, and I don't think it's enough, Tom.
No, IceIce is going to go down, and Vetium will as well. And you called it, Toli. all tied up here. SK eUnited. We're going to game 3, matched up.
I think the mind game metas between these two teams is starting to work out well for SK Gaming. First picking Merlin, giving up Arthur, forcing out the ban from Freya, even switching up their own bans to take away this Jean-Qui and the Fafnir. You can tell SK Gaming are really methodical about their picks and bans, even wanting to take away some of these options from eUnited by picking up the Camazotz, picking up the Artio. It forced Callus into an Ares, and the Callus had a great Ares game, honestly, at the end of the day, and it just wasn't enough damage onto all of SK Gaming.
I'm gonna roll up my sleeves for this one because SK Gaming are looking real strong, but it's a very interesting approach. And I want to shout out Belair here. If you've been following the conversation online, he's been the member that people are most critical about. But I think this is a different season for Ronnie over there, and I really like what's going on in that solo lane. They trusted him. SK gave him the counter to King Arthur, and he brought it home. We'll see if that can happen in game number 3. But first, a desk break.
He brought it home, but I'll tell you, he had some help too. Sam for Soccer on that Thanatos had a big impact on Benji's King Arthur, but a big win for SK Gaming to tie this set up so far. Finch and Taco obviously here for you to break things down. Taco, what was it for you? What did you see in that last game that let SK turn things around so well?
Belair definitely just got off to a fantastic start, and a large part of that definitely came from some assistance out of Sam for Soccer, and it was just smart decision-making from SK as a whole. While there's aggression taking place on the solo lane, you never really saw Paul or Zapman trying to make their outplay moments occur. They always made sure to wait until after the fact, until after that pressure had died down over in the solo lane into SK's favor, and then they had their window of opportunity to work with to look to punish other lanes.
Zapman had a good game here too, but I think you're right to focus on Belair and that solo lane. This Camazotz was an absolute nightmare for eUnited to try and deal with. He was able to get so far ahead. There was a point where he was 3 levels up above this King Arthur. I think it was 11 to 14 in the levels, favoring Belair over Benji. And we talk all the time about how strong Benji is, but as good as he is, Taco, it's so hard to beat when your character is up against someone who can match your sustain and damage and box you just as well, and an execute from Sam for Soccer and the Thanatos, who came over all the time. And it wasn't just on the King Arthur, he was executing everywhere.
Sam pitched a tent in Benji's lane, and he had zero intentions of canceling his camping trip anytime soon. And it worked out for good reason. I mean, when Belair is able to go 8-0 and 11,
That's
this
scary,
man
dude.
had 19 kill participation. That is absolutely insane for a Camazotz, but he also was a large part of the reason why BigManTingz, I feel, never really got to take off with this Raijin. He just sat on top of him the entire time, bat out of hell, just gave Belair so much die potential against BigManTingz, and on top of that, he's already just dealing so much burst as is because of the vampiric bats.
I'm glad we're sitting on Zapman, because even though his KDA wasn't there, Taco, he was also contributing in a big way. He was leading, or second in his team rather, in player damage on the Hachiman pick for him. And he showed us some of the Zap Weil that we've known, almost able to make it out of a sticky situation up against Vetium in the dual lane. Unfortunately, he did end up falling in that 1v1. But this was another good game for him. This is what SK Gaming looks like when they're at their best. It's when these side lanes are able to step up and perform really strong, and then that opens up the door for Sam and Paul. This is a game where I don't even know how much we called their name. It was Belair and Zapman that were doing a lot for them, and Paul and Sam kind of got a bit of a breather. That's when this SK team looks really scary.
I didn't really have to say a whole lot about Paul. I mean, all he really needed to be there for was the cleanup pieces. He's
Right.
on janitor duty, essentially. All he's just sweeping everybody on by underneath the rug, trying to make sure that they're all taken care of. And I just think that everybody from SK felt really in sync this game, and it does feel as though whenever Belair has a strong performance game, that almost always leads into an SK victory.
I think so too. They really have been able to play through Belair well when he's in the rhythm and he's feeling himself. So now we transition, Taco, into the best of 3